Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got a new sponsor to welcome to the shows, and before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the state of the junior mining sector right now. Basically, the sentiment is brutal, and what's happening is the stocks are trading at depressed prices. And, a lot of people are out there are sort of licking their wounds and not too optimistic. But this has me very excited because I've seen this play out before. In the year 2000, 2001, the sentiment towards precious and base metal stocks was absolutely brutal, just like it is right now. And then the 2001 to 2011 bull market started, and a lot of the brutally priced or depressed price stocks went up dramatically. And I think we're on the cusp of seeing the exact same thing happen again, because once again, we have the metal stocks trading at significantly depressed prices, but the metals prices themselves are pretty solid right now, and there's a lot of arguments that they're going to go up. Look at the price of gold, for example. Even after recent correction, still trading in the 1800s, which is a pretty healthy price for the gold miners. But the sentiment is like it's trading at 15 or 1400, and that's another indication of just how brutal the valuations are right now. But for those that are looking at buying, this is what I think is the best setup. That I think it's even better than what we saw in the early 2000s. You've got debt out of control. There's a death spiral happening in debt now. Debt is actually growing in the United States at a more rapid pace than the GDP growth. And I think that will only get worse because of all the debt that's out there. The U.S. dollar is pretty strong of late because there's really not a lot of places for investors to hide, and one place they're hiding is in short-term treasuries. And in order to buy those short-term treasuries, if you're a foreigner, you have to buy the U.S. dollar, and so the U.S. dollar has been strong, and gold has been weak for a couple months now. But I think that's on the verge of switching quite dramatically to more bullish. Fundamentally, you look at supply and demand, there's dramatic demand coming from China and other countries, and the central bankers of those countries are buying it up quite significantly. Well, since the 2008 economic crisis, they've been buying it up. 2022 was a record year, and 2023 is set to be even a bigger record for buying of central bankers. So I think the central bankers of the world see the writing on the wall that is bullish for gold, but the writing on the wall that most excites me is the gold stocks, silver stocks, base metal stocks, because they are once again trading at these significantly depressed prices. And in my new sponsor, it's a company called Delta Resources. I see some very exciting things about this company that I think will grow them into a much larger company. And the parallel I draw for them is to Osisko. I started covering Osisko when they were under $1. I remember all the mudslinging and the negativity towards that company in the early days. And yet they built a mine. They passed all the milestones. They were able to fund the mine, build the mine. They actually had to move a town in order to build that mine, and it was a huge success for PIC and in my reports and for investors that invested in it. And I think that Delta Resources is following a similar path to success in that they also have what looks like a open pit target with very handsome grades for an open pit target that is moving towards being a mine of the future that nobody is really giving them any credit for right now. That currently they only have a $16 million valuation. But what makes Delta Resources a little significantly different than Osisko is that they also have this extreme high grade element to the deposit. Now, it could be two different geological events where you've got what's growing into a open pit target was one event, and then you had a secondary event causing this extreme high grade. So they have to do the work to understand that. But I think that that's exactly where they're heading. And I'm going to share a screen here right now. So here's the stock chart. Their low back here, way back here, was about 4 cents. And that was in July of last year. Since then, they traded as high as, let's say, 65 cents. And then they've been coming off since then. But I'm going to go back to this period right about here where some significant optimism came into the stock. And to better describe that, I'm going to stop share for 1 second here. And then I'm going to switch screens. And I'm going to kind of go over how I do my research on a company. So I think it's instructive on telling the Delta Resources story, but then also how investors should go about doing their homework. So we're going to roll back the clock to January 17th of 2023. They announced that they began drilling at their Delta 1 project in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Then on January 31st, they announced a very modest $450,000 private placement. They gave an update. They have two key projects. Delta 1 is their flagship, if you will, but Delta 2 is a VMS property in Quebec that looks quite promising as well. But the results that came out after this news release is what has sort of pushed Delta 1 into their flagship project. On February 9th, they announced that Delta confirms eastward extension of new gold zone with more high-grade gold intercepts at Delta 1. Okay, so you've got this near-surface discovery with thick intersections of the kind of grade that you can mine in an open pit, but then they talk about the high grade in there as well. So let's take a look at some of these results. 130 grams of gold over a meter, 30 grams of gold over a meter, 16 grams over 1.5 meters. Then let's take a look at the table here. So here's you're getting down 293 meters to 324 and 5.92, 11.24, 14.8 over 11.9 meters, 72.95 grams of gold over 2.2 meters, 30 grams over 1 meter, 130 grams over a meter, 16 grams. So as you can see, there's this high grade element to the discovery that they have. Here you can see the zones where they're drilling. This is the mineralized envelope that they put out at that point in time. Here you can see the distribution of the high grade. And so this is when you see in the stock chart that it started to come to life somewhat. So then they expanded their land position at the Delta One property. And then they announced in March that they intersected multiple drill holes with visible gold. And so now when you see visible gold, you start to know that that's a high-grade system. They had drilled 2,900 meters. Visible gold had been observed prior to cutting the core in looks like 5 drill holes. They noted that every occurrence of visible gold was observed in quartz, anchorite, pyrite veins and veinlets forming a stockwork. A concentration of these veins and veinlets within highly altered and brecciated intermediate to mafic volcanics. Visible gold is typically millimetric, but larger grains are locally observed. So you got fine grain, pristine grains up to more coarse grains. And here they show you some of the visible gold inside of these quartz veins. Now, what's also interesting, when you look at this sort of stuff, it's important to note that you don't just get to sample this portion. You send in the entire core, and a lot of this core is not going to have any gold in it. So you're diluting this grade somewhat. If you ever find big intersections of this quartz, kitty bar the door kind of thing, and then here you see some more specks of visible gold associated with some quartz in there. They give you a distribution of that gold, which is very promising. And let me see if they show any more maps. No, they don't. Okay, so now we'll go on to Delta announces improved intercept of 6.49 grams per ton of gold over 10 meters and identifies geophysical signature further extending the Eureka gold zone for a minimum of 2 kilometers. This is why you start to realize that this is where you can start to realize that this is a big system, and a lot of that system is very close to surface, something that you could open pit. But I keep going back to this high grade portions that just I can't ignore. And in a couple of news releases, you'll see why. But here's Delta announces improved gold intercept, 6.49 grams of gold over 10 meters, and identifies geophysical signature, further extending the Eureka zone for a minimum of 2 kilometers. So let's go down. Let's look at, again here, look at these grades in here. Very nice high grade material. And here is the geophysics. Now, what's interesting about this is, so this is I believe it's mag that they're talking about here. Total mag, yes. So you can see a mag low here, and they've got a good distribution of the gold over in here. Then there's a fault, and then you get a much more intense mag low over in here. But what's you got to bear in mind is these faults can displace the gold mineralization. So, at one time, maybe this was all one big body, and there's been some displacement here, possibly here as well. But this is a big geophysical anomaly that is wide open. Again, you have to figure out these kind of systems. Unfortunately, Mother Nature didn't make finding mines really easy, but look at some of this stuff near surface, 1.16 grams of gold over 18 meters. In a lot of open pits these days, they're mining a 0.5 gram. So when you get 1 gram or more in an open pit, that's pretty high grade for an open pit. And they've hit a lot of this stuff, which is why it shows the potential that you could have a pretty big open pit, and with the high grade juices in there as well, that still haven't been explained at depth. Okay, so now let's go to their next news release. And important one here was on April. 4.23 grams over 26.2 meters. So nice big thick intersection within a broader interval of 2 grams of gold over 65.8 meters. Again, I'll go back to that point about open pits these days being mined at half a gram or less. And these guys are looking at 2 grams over 65.8 meters. And let me see if there's any other details in here. Here you're seeing more of the great gold distribution. Again, thick intersections, good grades for open pit, and also great grades for underground high grade as well. They accelerated their option agreement to acquire 100% of the Delta One. And then, here in April, intersected wide zone of gold. Let me pull it up here. Delta continues to intersect wide zones of gold mineralization near surface, including 1.29 grams of gold over 97 meters. And 0.55 grams of gold over 238 meters. So whichever way you want to slice it, that's a big, thick intersection that is the kind of thing that makes for an open pit mine. Whether you're looking at the 97 meters or you're looking at the 238 of a half a gram. This is what's being mined today, these days in open pits. And I will add, as we're talking about that, the infrastructure is quite incredible here. They're right beside the Trans-Canada Highway. They're very close to the town of Thunder Bay. There, people can stay in Thunder Bay and drive out to the property and keep their Tim Hortons coffees warm by the time they get to the property. But as you can see here, from 36 meters to 133 meters, 1.29 grams per ton of gold. So 97 meters of that 1.29. At here, there is, and again, this high grade element to the deposit keeps showing up. 0.9 meters or 0.9 meter of 36.59 grams. Another deeper in the hole, 0.9 meters of 46 grams. And then you look at this hole over here, hole 32, you went from 42 meters to 283 meters. So that's 238 meters of a little better than a half a gram. You look a little bit deeper into this zone, and you see that there is 22 meters of a gram and a quarter, 37 meters of over a gram, 9 meters of 2.62, and that's at the bottom of that intersection. So again, you got that high grade element keeps on showing up in what looks like an open pit target, but with this high grade element to the open pit portion, as well as the depth portion is wide open. Okay, so now Delta in April resumes 2022-23 drill program and provides visuals of drill hole 38. So is pleased to resume drilling in 5,000 meter program. They call this the deep blue. Often when you get these, there's a fault going through here, but often when you get these systems with the high grade, it's structurally controlled. And a lot of times the structures are quite complex. So it's hard to sort of work your way to figuring out the controls of that high grade gold. But as you can see, this is quite a large geophysical anomaly here. And let's get down to that sweet looking, there's your good looking core. Now they're starting to see a little bit bigger chunks of quartz in there. and associated with this gold, this visible gold that they're seeing. And photo 2, yeah. So, and it's pretty sizable visible gold at that. So, this leads me to be excited about the potential of finding more and thicker zones of visible gold, but they're getting a large amount of these quartz coming into this rock that that's could make up the hot, let's say, the open pit. But then you keep going deeper and look for more of this quartz, and it's already telling you that this is a very high grade system. So it's that depth potential is very exciting to me as well. This was another great news release in April. Near surface, including 1.15 grams per ton of gold over 89.7 meters, 0.86 grams over 109 meters. Again, this is the building of an open pit target with very good grades for an open pit target. 14 meters, it starts right at the surface, and you've got that 1.15 grams per ton of gold right at surface over 89 meters. And again, here, look at the gold, the high grade is starting to poke its head into there as well. 45 grams, 12 grams. This other hole here, 34, hit 109 grams of 0.86 and right at surface. So for the first 42.5 meters, it's hitting 1.31 grams per ton of gold. So this is really nice looking grades for an open pit target. And as they learn more, it just keeps getting better and better. Then they announced in April that they were doing a bought deal financing, a flow through for $7 million. And, guys that can write those, folks that can write those kind of checks, they understand the big picture story, that this is an open pit target that looks like it could be a future mine, and it's growing. And included in that is a high grade portions or zones inside of the very large open pit target. They added some more claims in May, and then look at this blockbuster stuff. They intersected 1,636 grams of gold and 697 grams of gold over 1 meter intervals, and they reported visible gold in 2 step-out holes in initial phase 2 drilling at Delta 1. So, man, I love to see these kind of numbers. This is just off the charts. 1636, 697, and that is part of the high grade or the open pit portion, because you're only going down 70 meters and you're hitting bonanza grades. And as you can see in the other results, as you go deeper, these the high grade material. Now, of course, this is kind of off the charts. Even in a extremely high grade gold system, you're not going to see this kind of stuff all the time. You start seeing anything over a half an ounce or an ounce, and that means that the high grade is hanging together. But sometimes this turns into super bonanza grades, which you could open pit mine, and that would be a jewelry box. You make sure the guys running the trucks don't run away with that kind of material full of gold there. As they're drilling more, they're getting more and more understanding of the system. Here you can see how it's, very close to surface. This only goes down to 150 meters, and they've got good gold distribution in their beta zone, and the alpha zone, and even over here into this gamma zone. And then here, look at this. Here's your distribution of your gold, and here you got the high grade in there, super high grade in here. And that is from hole 38. So now you're on the other side of the fault. And, modeling how this works, this could be a displaced portion of that. It could be a displaced portion of that. It could be a displaced portion of that. Figuring this kind of mineralization out is going to be part of their future endeavors with their drilling. But very exciting stuff. Let me see. Then they did a $10 million bought deal. So again, people with big checks are cutting big checks for the company to go after this project in a big way. And that's when then shortly after that closed, they announced that they started 20,000 meters of drilling in June and added a second drill rig. Then they doubled their land position in July. They bought back their 1% NSR royalty on that project. They received a grant of $200,000 from the Ontario Junior Exploration Program. And then they put this news release out, and the stock got knocked down quite dramatically. And I'm thinking to myself, do people understand what they're looking at here? 2.16 grams per ton of gold over 97.5 meters within a broader interval of 1.79 grams of gold over 128 meters. So when a stock sells off with this kind of result, it's clearly not trading because of the quality of the results. It's trading like that because of the sentiment. But for investors that are on the ball, these are the kind of opportunities that give them a chance to buy on the cheap. And in this case, you're buying below bottom level, bargain basement prices. You're getting it at even cheaper than the ground floor. What's below you're getting it in the parking lot below the ground floor. Let me go to their, actually, Andre Tessier, who's the president and CEO in this news release, said, more exciting results from Delta 1. Drill hole 21 D1 2360 was testing an interpreted high-grade ore shoot and did not disappoint. The mineralization is expanding in every direction. Grades are improving, and our drilling has located the strongly altered corridor that hosts the gold mineralization for over 500 meters to the east. As we continue to gain more knowledge about the controls of the gold mineralization, we believe the team will have continued success at hitting the known zones and discovering new zones. Drilling so far has demonstrated the strength of the mineralizing system, and we look forward to prove the scale of this mineralized area, end quote. He's saying a lot of really important things there, and he has every right to say exactly what he did because they're seeing it in the drill hole. Large area, grades improving, understanding geology, helping them to target future drilling. And let's take a look at these results. So from 68 meters, you got 38 meters of 0.7. Deeper, you got 1.24 over 3 and 6 meters. 128 meters at 0.34. 0.92 over 16 meters. 5 meters of a gram. 78 meters of 0.34. Included in that was 30 meters of 0.58. Folks, this is what makes up a mine, an open pit mine. You're going to see some variables on the grade, but you get some low grade, you get some average grade, and then you get some spectacular grade. And that's what I think makes this a very compelling story for an open pit. But even in these results down here, you start to see, here's again where you get this juiced up portion, 1 meter of 14 grams, 1.5 meters of 51.4 grams, 1 meter at 24 grams, 152 meters of over a half a gram, 113 meters of 0.70. And now they're starting to get a better understanding of how the ore chutes are plunging and where to keep going and looking. But you can start to see the makings of a pit shell here, and that the depth is wide open and the high grade is very wide open as well. Here's another one where you can see that distribution of the high grades and going in this direction. Now, where does this one go? This still needs to be determined. Maybe it's coming down at this direction. Again, you've got this fault issue that's going to displace some of the zones, and trying to figure that out is why you do exploration drilling. So that's the series of news releases for 2023 that was basically the reason why I invited the company to be a sponsor. And the reason that I do that is because I can see the making of a company that will have a long series of important news releases that leads them towards an Osisko type story, but with a high grade element that is in some cases off the charts high grade. And that can make for a very profitable open pit. And then they've also got to discover the roots of the system that's causing this high grade to make its way up into this open pit target. And again, the company has tremendous infrastructure right beside a highway in close proximity to Thunder Bay. In Thunder Bay, you've got a lot of mining experience. You got a mining friendly jurisdiction in one of the tier 1 jurisdictions in the world for mining, which is in Ontario. And I believe without a doubt in my mind that they've got the making of what will become a future open pit mine that reminds me a lot of the early days of Osisko. And Osisko turned into a huge winner. I think that this one has a second element that has me very excited, which is that high grade portion that is still wide open. So they can keep drilling to figure out the open pit portion of the deposit, but then they can figure out the roots that are causing this extreme high grade to be coming up into the system. In a nutshell, a $16 million valuation is certainly not representative of what I think is the future for this company. But I can make that case for a lot of junior mining companies out there right now that have very good projects that are trading at bargain basement prices. And I think that that's more of a sentiment thing than it is the fundamentals of the project. These guys got a lot of cash. They got drill rigs. They're working away, and they're going to be able to continue to weather the storm. And if you're looking for a company that could be a leader in bringing incitement back into the junior space, Delta Resources is one of those. And as always, my shows are for information purposes only. Important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, go to the company's website. Bear in mind that they are a sponsor of my shows, so that makes me biased. But the bias that I have is towards the quality of their project. And that is based on science, and it's based on my 30 years of exploration experience, and having seen big winners in the past and what goes into making those big winners. And I don't get too concerned about the times when investors don't seem to understand that, because ultimately they do. And to better understand why I'm bullish on Delta, I invite you to check out the interview that I did with Andre Tessier not too long ago on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News or on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And check out the website and give the company a call. These junior mining companies like to tell their story, and Delta Resources has a heck of a story to tell. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.